Hello and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and we are glad to have you here again. And as it is May, Mental Health Awareness Month, so we are diving into conversations related to mental health. I always say every month is Mental Health Month for me in the line of work that I do, and that will be the same for our guest today. And so today's guest will say a lot about this subject and excited to get right to it. Kurt Busch is the founder of Brimstone Coaching, where he helps individuals break through limitations, sharpen their mindset, and build the kind of resilience that creates lasting success. He brings direct, practical approach to leadership and personal growth. And today we will hear about what it takes to lead with purpose, overcome adversity, and create momentum both personally and professionally. So I know if you're listening, who doesn't want that? So Kurt, thanks for being here.
Hey, nice to be here, Pete. Thanks for having me.
So we are going to break this down. So we're going to lead with purpose, overcome adversity, and create momentum. So I love that. So tell us about yourself and what's inspired you to become an advocate for mental wellness.
Yeah, so what's true is I've got a really weird background, a really weird career background. I spent about a decade in manufacturing. I led people in a production process. I also did some recruiting, did labor recruiting for a season. And then I went to seminary late in life, and I led a church for just about another decade. And I don't know if you remember 2020, Pete. Do you remember 2020?
Pretty clearly, yeah.
There was a couple things going on. It was in that season in 2020 where pastorally, in my pastoral leadership, I had to shift to like helping my volunteer leaders learn how to lead and learn how to manage their anxiety, learn how to navigate the things they're carrying so that they could lead well. And what I learned in that season is I loved that work, and it was extremely gratifying. And what happened is in the organization I was with, over the course of time, we got further away from the pandemic. The culture started to take, and I got to coach like that way less. What was needed of me shifted. Mm-hmm. So I really started to lean into like, how do I coach more? And slowly over time, I started coaching more leaders around me, and then launched a coaching practice in 2024.
So we're going to break that down. I mean, I felt like we maybe fast forwarded right to that. I mean, when you just dropped this like pastoral work, I mean, that sounds really important. Can you speak a little bit more about that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So early in my life, I was connected to a church organization where I got to lead. Mm-hmm. I had a really good mentor that helped me kind of understand what leadership looks like. And then over the course of time, realized like that was something I wanted to pursue.
Nice.
Some doors opened for me. I was like 35 when I started seminary, which is crazy. Mm. Probably don't do that if you're a listener. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, why do you say that though?
It's sarcasm. That's total sarcasm.
Well, I know that, but like if you say 35 to me seems late.
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay, good.
That is late.
I wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah.
That was, I had kids. We had kids that were in school already. It was a huge life transition. I can look back now and see like even that taught me and my family a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that led to, I led in an organization for about 2 years. Then I went to launch a new campus of a church. January 1st of 2020, which is like the perfect time when you look back.
My goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
What was exciting for me is that was a season where we were trying to build culture. We were trying to, build something in a new place. It was really enticing. And then it just shifted so quickly into like, man, now we got to like help people learn how to navigate anxiety, and we got to help people who are, like 2020, there was a lot in 2020.
Well, when you say January 2020, I'll never forget that. No one, a lot of the world won't, but you were starting a church and I was starting a mental health program at the university within athletics. So I had just been tapped December of 19 to be like, hey, this system's not working. Can you fix this? And then all of a sudden, January 2020 started. And then as we know, March, April is when the world changed.
Yeah. And, we would say a lot like, I don't know how much the world changed as much as it just uncovered what was already present.
Yeah, totally.
In the way we showed up. But yeah, just in a heartbeat, I had to go from being like organizational leader to like, man, how do I help these people show up? Yeah. And how do I help these people, myself too? Like I have a coach. I had a good coach to help me do this. And then how do I help these people who, are just trying to survive? Like, how do I help them also show up and lead well while they're anxious, while they're scared, while they're feeling all that there was to feel in that.
So in your experience, either from then to now, what are some of the biggest mental health struggles that you think professionals and entrepreneurs are facing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like imposter syndrome is everywhere.
Yeah.
I would probably lump inner critic into that too.
Sure.
I think there is some, I mean, I'd love to hear what you say, but I think there is some inner critic that is healthy.
Yeah,
Like there
totally.
is some piece of that that drives us and
Yeah.
motivates us to learn and grow. But I see so much inner critic that just drives the bus, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, inner critic is, it's funny when you said it that way. It is a mental health struggle. I mean, we in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we frame that into like anxiety or some other sort of aspects of cognitive distortions, and but the inner critic can be useful,
Yeah.
is what I heard you saying. And so yeah, it can be. It's understanding. What I usually say is like just lowering the volume,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 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 And we would say something similar, like, can we lower the volume and can we like weed out what's true? Can we disconnect it from shame?
Right.
You know, we are not clinical therapists, so we try to stay in our lane, if you will. But yeah, can we disconnect it from the stories we believe about ourselves? You know, if the inner critic can drive me to say, you know, you're right, I don't know how to do that. I should probably learn how to do that thing, or I should probably learn that concept. That's different than, see, you're never going to be a good coach, or you're
Right.
never going to be a good CEO, or you're never going to
Hmm.
do this or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think those are big. I mean, I think this kind of hustle grind culture that we
Yeah.
live in, it's not necessarily a mental health struggle, but it leads to
Yeah.
so much exhaustion and so much, I don't even like the word burnout in this case, but it leads to so much like,
It's there.
yeah, it's there, and comparison with others.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those are what we see most of.
So tell us more about imposter syndrome, the way that you see that showing up, in your.
Yeah. So here's how it shows up first. Somebody looks into the Zoom camera with this sort of embarrassed look and says, am I the only one that feels this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No, no, actually.
yeah.
It's everywhere. So that's how it starts. But what we see with our clients is that it's often linked to a fear,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of being found out,
Mm-hmm.
which then leads to all sorts of hiding, and all sorts of compensating,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we would say is the unsustainable part of that
Sure.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Do you work predominantly with men, or I know that sort, or do you see that there's like sort of like what men are struggling with today, and if there's still stigma related to some coaching around some of these men leaders?
Yeah, it's a good question. Our client load is just about 50-50 men
Okay.
and women. I do think there is a stigma of male leaders, of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to be. I think it's less. I think it's, we also are in kind of a weird part of the country where there's some other kind of male female things around leadership, and
Well,
you
I
know,
I'm glad you just. So I'm curious. What does that mean? Like, unpack that a little bit more, because you're in. Like, where are you that you would say that?
yeah, we're in Iowa.
Yeah.
We're in a community, and I love where I live, but
Yeah.
we're not from here. We're kind of outsiders looking in. And what we see is that we're in sort of this sheltered, kind of isolated area where we say it's 40 years behind.
Mm.
And I think part of that has been on purpose. I think, you know, a community builds its values and protects against things they feel like are going to threaten their values. And yeah, I mean, I think there probably is a sort of mental model that says men lead,
Yeah.
or men are equipped to lead. Obviously, we as our coaching group push on that as hard as we can.
Sure. Sure.
So I think we do see some stigma. I think generally that stigma of like men lead, women don't, and then
Yeah.
also then men lead like XYZ. I do
Yeah.
think that's going away, but certainly there is a stigma. I'm grateful it's less though.
Yeah. Well, it was curious because when you were talking about just the fast-paced world, knowing that you're in Iowa, I was curious of like, I wonder how you'd feel in New York, like where I am, because I mean, there's still a difference, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, I don't even, Pete. I don't know if we want to go there, but
Yeah.
I
Let's
don't
go.
even know like when I say like the pace of life, or the
Yeah.
hustle grind. I'm not even sure that I want to make a connection to like burnout with pace. I'm not even
Right.
sure burnout is about pace. I think it's probably more about alignment than it is
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pace is relative. You know, I think not being from this area we are, like we notice the pace of life is so much slower, and that's a gift. And people that are here that have grown up here just feel like life is moving so fast.
Yeah. Right.
So it's certainly relative, right?
It's all relative, yeah. It's Iowa has a special place in my heart, which sounds weird for me to say because I've never even been there. But because Vivian Stringer was a Hall of Fame basketball coach, and she was like 20 years at Rutgers, but she was at Iowa, so she was one coach. I think she was like one of the only coaches that brought like 3 or 4 different teams to the Sweet 16, or she has
Okay.
all these like accolades, and she's a Black woman with a child with disability, and so she has a great book, and she talks about how Iowa really like accepted her, even though you wouldn't think that they would,
Yeah.
based on sort of, some of the socio-political things, but it was a real kind of place that she developed. And obviously their sports in Iowa are, really a big part of the culture.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, none of that surprises me. Like I've maybe said some not gracious things about Iowa, but none of that surprises me that she would be accepted.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of leaders associate pushing through, and so I love that we're saying this around burnout, alignment, resilience. So how do you redefine strength when it comes to emotional and mental health?
Yeah, we think about strength as like maybe strength means that we have the courage to hit pause when we need to hit pause,
Totally.
or create margin or space, or implement things like the practice of reflection when the pressure is like push through. I like push through on some level. I always want to ask the question of like, what are we pushing through to, and what's on the other side?
Totally.
So I think I would equate that strength to being able to say, look, whatever's going on around me, I do need a little space to rest. I do need a little space to get clear on my why and how and who I want to be. I think that's how we think about strength. Kind of different than like be strong and push through. We would say it takes way more strength to pause and get clear on who and how we want to be.
I love that you said that, because it is about balance. It's not like, it's not never push through, but
yeah,
you have to have some push through. I mean, if, no high performer, it doesn't, very few high performers had a silver platter where everything was just delivered to them.
Yeah. That's absolutely fair. Like even seasons, right? Like there are seasons when I can't pause and reflect like I want to, or I can't have the margins I want. And if that's a season, that's great.
Yeah.
If that's a rhythm that we can't see a way out of, then I think we'd want to ask more questions about that.
Let's get curious. So when someone feels stuck mentally or emotionally, where's the best place for them to begin rebuilding momentum?
Yeah, one of the places we invite clients to go to first is to notice the places in their rhythm, whether that's work or home or whatever, where they feel regret or remorse. And those are like big, strong words. Maybe we don't mean them as strong as it sounds, but like, when are the meetings you walk out of and you're like, man, I didn't show up the way I wanted to? Yeah. Or where are the hard conversations where like, man, I wish I'd have said that, or why didn't I say that? We think those are giant red flags or giant indicators that there's something going on there, and some gentle questions to say, what happened? What's going on? What did I feel? Why did I do that? Yeah. Is maybe the easiest in terms of like process, the easiest place to start being curious.
Well, I'm curious, where I keep hearing you talk about we and the approach. And so is that collective we, is that just a strategy that you use, or like, what does your team look like?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, because it's just me here, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I love that. I do. Yeah. I mean, I manage and lead in the similar kind of way, but I got curious of like, what does Kurt's team look like?
Yep. So right now it's two of us.
Nice.
I co-founded and co-own this coaching practice with one of my best friends.
Awesome.
So we do this with any leader we can find. We would say everybody leads something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he and I started this in 2024. We would say that we were coaching together, but separately for about a decade before that. Yeah. We went to seminary together. We've been good friends for a long time. And yeah, it's right now, it's just the two of us kind of grinding through this.
That's really cool. Is faith intertwined at all? Like since you have the seminary background and the sort of pastoral experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the easy answer is like explicitly externally facing, no.
Right.
We are not a faith-based coaching organization. I think we would be silly to say it doesn't impact our philosophy or the tools that we've created or the reason we do what we do. I don't think we can separate that in ourselves.
Right.
But in terms of kind of how we think about the work we do with people, no, we're not an explicitly Christian coaching practice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's real. That's authentic, which we'll get to. For me, like what I relate to in that is psychology and Zen. And so when I started doing meditation and studying that about 20 years ago, like for me now to separate the two is like silly to even think, because they're so entwined. Because Zen is all about the mind and whatever the mind is, philosophically, but then the idea that psychology is trying to understand, heal, and deal with all of that. So yeah, you can't you bring yourself into it, which I hear you saying. Yeah, I love that. So speaking of you, how do you manage your own stress and protect your own mental health while helping others?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I have a good coach and a good therapist.
Yeah.
which I will advocate for until I run out of words to advocate for them. I think having a coach and a therapist is a must for everybody.
Yeah.
So I try to think about two things. I think about counter systems. I think about, if the systems in my life that drain me are related to kind of my work and my coaching, which, as much as I love the work I do, it drains batteries, right?
Totally.
So then what are the counter systems that I'm going to turn to when I need to kind of recharge those batteries? I read a lot.
Nice.
I'm on a Stephen King bender right now. I love Stephen King.
Yeah.
I also love baseball. I listen on the radio like an old man. Absolutely love sitting on my patio with a cold beer, listening to a baseball game.
I love it.
So I think about counter systems, like where am I going to intentionally go to recharge batteries? I think the other thing I think about is the practice of reflection. And I mean that in a sense of like intentional examining, like what's so in me. Like, how do I get perspective of what's true? What I find about my own mental health and my emotional health is that the question, what's true, keeps me really grounded.
Yeah.
What's true about what I'm feeling? What's true about the situations I'm in? What's true about my business? What's true about my family? So I think those two for me are the main kind of key places where I go to protect my emotional and mental health.
So reflection. I mean, what true is a great question to sit with. I heard some of my Zen sisters probably saying like, but if you're delusional, then you might not be able to answer.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the root of Zen is like that everything is sort of diluted up in your brain. And but yeah, being able to when you can reflect in a deep way, you have the answer to what's true or not.
Yeah, and I have a good coach and therapist will tell me what's true. They'll help me get to what's true. That I trust will tell me if I am delusional. They will tell me.
They're going to keep it real. Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah.
So there's definitely like a listener out there who's struggling silently. And what message would you want to leave them with today?
Yeah, I think the message that's been so impactful for me is that silent struggle doesn't have to be the way that we go about adulthood or leading. What I remember is that I was exhausted and I was struggling and I thought that was just normal. I thought this is just what it means to adult, if I can use that as a verb.
Yeah, totally.
And certainly there are times, like you said before, where we have to push through. I think in general, I believe that silent struggle and exhaustion and just being buried under those things, it just doesn't have to be that way. So I maybe just want to give a gentle invite to think about another way.
Nice. Be open to the idea that there is a different way.
Yes.
Openness is a big key. So tell us about Live Fully, Lead Authentically.
Yep. So this is a book we wrote, came out about a year ago. Chris is my coaching partner. We really just wanted to capture why we do what we do, and give sort of our philosophy in a concise way. And that is the book that sort of captures our heartbeat of why it is we do what we do. And then also like, here's the framework that's come out of our individual work, our sort of work as a coaching practice. Here's what we want to offer the world in terms of here's some frameworks to think about self-awareness and think about imposter syndrome and those sorts of things.
So we're getting towards the end, but I got a little curious about, were you always like from the Midwest or like so Iowa? You said you're sort of like on the outside looking in, but obviously you really enjoy it. How different was it where you've lived in other places?
Very different.
Really?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time in what's called the Quad City metro area. It's on the Mississippi River between Iowa and Illinois. It's 250,000 people.
Yeah,
it operates like an Omaha or a Sioux Falls or whatever.
Sure.
It's a bigger metro area. Again, pace of life is just so fast, and I think we always like, I can look back and wonder like what was real in all of that. I appreciate in parts of Iowa where some realness and authenticity is a little more present, a little more welcome.
Yeah.
So, and I get it, like there's downfalls to everything, but sure. I think that's some of the difference of like, you hear this sort of Iowa salt of the earth. And I think like there are parts of where we live that is just really true.
Yeah. It's beautiful to have that. And to, I'm thinking that also helps with mental health. We talk about just getting outside and having authentic connection and, being able to see sort of nature and, the beauty of it. And obviously that's part of, there's a lot of people on the East Coast here that will make a commitment to try and go to every state or, it's to try and experience other parts of this country because there's so much out there.
Yeah. There is something beautiful. Like I didn't love when we first came here. It's very flat.
Yeah.
but the horizons are big and the sunsets and sunrises are beautiful.
Yeah.
And, you get to see corn come up and you get to see it grow. Like there is something beautiful about a change of season where things grow and things harvest. And there's a special kind of beauty.
Yeah.
That's not the Rocky Mountains, but it certainly does have a form of beauty.
Yeah. Flat could be beautiful.
Yeah. Big horizons, that's always what we say.
Yeah. I've never lived anywhere that doesn't have seasons. So for me, that's such a big, and it's also just another mental health Zen sort of third wave CBT thing, is that nothing lasts forever and it's constantly changing. And the seasons are just like the most tangible reminder of that. It's like,
love that.
Now when we're annoyed by our allergies right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, but that's growth. It's such a beautiful thing that it requires that, annoyance to then have these, crops and the beauty of what, then comes out after that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So this was great. So Kurt, I really appreciate you being here. So if people want to learn more about Brimstone Coaching, where would they go?
Yeah, we have a website, brimstonecoachinggroup.com. There's resources on there to help people understand who we are and why we do what we do. Again, we being Chris and I together. Just a glimpse into who we are. There's resources on there. People can click for free and have a conversation with us. No charge, no obligation, to see if our philosophy matches with where they feel stuck.
Love it. And we'll have that in the show notes as well. So Kurt, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And for you listening at home, thank you for listening. Your continued support is the reason that we are here and to keep having important conversations and advocating for mental health awareness. We truly appreciate each and every one of you that tune in. And so please remember to like, follow, and share. Everything's at officialdrpete.com. Mental Health Awareness Month is May, and we will continue to have these conversations. And we'll be back next Friday. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.